Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Sexual Assault Survivor Stories, the SAS podcast. Coming to you from the Long Valley studio in Washington, Utah. I'm your host, Dave Markle, and this is episode 180. 2 episodes ago, in episode 178, I introduced you to Norma Peterson, Executive Director of the nonprofit organization Document the Abuse. Norma is back with us today to talk more about the work her organization is doing and about the Evidentiary Abuse Affidavit, which sits at the heart of Document the Abuse. Norma is also the sister-in-law of Stacy Peterson, who disappeared from her home in Bolingbrook, Illinois in October of 2007. Stacy was just 23 years old. Her body has never been found, but her disappearance became one of the biggest national stories of that year, raising serious questions about truth, accountability, and how narratives can be shaped when victims are no longer able to speak for themselves. For many survivors and advocates, Stacy's case exposed something much larger: how power, control, and systemic failures can distort the truth, and how often victims' voices are lost or ignored. That reality is exactly why Norma's work matters. Through Document the Abuse, she has dedicated years to helping survivors preserve their voices and document abuse in ways that can't easily be erased, rewritten, or dismissed. This episode focuses on that work and on why the Evidentiary Abuse Affidavit is such an important tool for survivors. This episode is a critically important one for everyone who has a story of interpersonal abuse. Please share it with everyone you can. Here's Norma. Hey, SAS audience, I'm back with Norma Peterson, and I'm really thrilled to have you back, Norma. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Dave. I do appreciate it.
Last time Norma and I talked, we had discussed the issue of how law enforcement sometimes reacts to sexual assault and rape and any type of interpersonal violence cases, especially in those situations where maybe they've responded to the same place 2 or 3 times and they get frustrated. And I know as a beginning cop for me, one of my questions was, why does this woman stay with this man if she's so miserable, if she's getting beat up? You and I know the answers, and there's a million answers why women stay. It's not an easy thing to leave. Plus, we both discussed that statistic that we're both well aware of, that is the most dangerous time for a woman is when she leaves a relationship. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I believe that a lot of the work that lies ahead of us in terms of changing the statistics around that whole situation would be in the education, to get into the education of police officers, so that instead of us struggling at the other end when they may have already had some experiences and made judgments based on those experiences because they weren't educated, then to come back and try to educate someone. Now you're coming from a point of not only damage control maybe, but then to take that damage control, neutralize it, and then go forward with new information, which may be more difficult. Whereas if we could start in the education of police officers, where there was the recognition of when you're getting called to an event such as this, where there's possible domestic violence, that this is not the first part of this equation. What you are getting involved in at this point is now the escalation, because what we would like to teach officers is at the point that you're getting engaged, there's already history.
Right.
While it may be your initial engagement with this person or this couple or to whoever this may be, what we need to get is a change in the perspective of those that are walking into the system, because I believe that's really where we can make the most amount of impact, is in that education. So if we can get to them before they're even getting experience in these types of situations, that they're already coming in with at least some kind of initial knowledge that, again, this goes back to when I'm getting engaged in this situation, this is not the beginning of this situation between these two people. That immediately should then raise the possibility of lethality, so that lethality assessments then become a go-to tool for law enforcement. And in doing so, we're addressing maybe some of the obstacles that victim survivors have, but we're also adding into it the element that we're going to keep police officers safer because they're more knowledgeable. They can make better assessments. They can make better decisions based on that previous knowledge that they're now walking into these situations with, because they've been taught this, they've been educated, they've been exposed. There's the statistics that will go to that they will learn. So I believe strongly in that concept that if we could do that for law enforcement, if we could do it for the medical system, if we could do it for the judicial system, for lawyers, it's almost like every environment to which a victim engages in needs to be better educated at the beginning of their careers as they are engaging in them, because then we're working with knowledge to begin with, and they're walking into situations better equipped. Victim survivors can count on that fact, because it's so arbitrary who's going to know what about trauma and how to engage it or how to recognize abuse, things of that nature. So again, that's my strong belief, is that if we could do a better job engaging those that work in those systems to let us in the door earlier, instead of us working at the back end when things have already happened and now we're having to change mindsets. And you can't change someone's experience and the judgments that have come with them. It's twice as hard. It's like coming from behind. It's going to take you twice as much effort to get ahead. If we didn't have to do that, and we came from a starting point that we're all going to start with, that would sure be a lot more helpful in terms of how we're really going to make a difference in these statistics that we're seeing, because they're only going up because we're not addressing these issues.
Let's talk about that statistic that I was referring to. Let's get it on the table so everyone knows what we're talking about. And that is that if a woman leaves an abuse, or another man leaves
anyone in an abusive situation,
if they leave, they're 75 times more likely to be killed or seriously injured.
Within the first 6 months are the most dangerous time for a victim to leave.
They know that if they stay, they're probably going to endure more violence and more injury. But if they leave within that first 6 months, they're facing a 75 times higher lethality rate or serious bodily injury. And we want law enforcement, as you mentioned, that's a huge point, Norma. I'm glad you brought it up, that by the time law enforcement may be the first time called to a domestic violence situation, that it's already been going on for maybe as long as the relationship has existed. Oftentimes, victims of those situations do not involve law enforcement until it gets so bad they can't tolerate it anymore. They're really afraid for their lives or their children's lives. I think the stat I used to know when I was a police officer was that by the time law enforcement got called to the scene, there had been at least 7 prior domestic violence issues that have gone on without law enforcement involvement, and usually more. It's a great point that we need to start training law enforcement in the academy what these statistics are and how to respond to these situations with a gamut full of foreknowledge of the dynamics of domestic violence.
And or the resources that may be helpful in that situation, because law enforcement is so limited, and they do, just by human nature, get tired of the fact that they're going back to the same address over and over and over again. So without that understanding, they're making the assessments that someone's in some form or fashion choosing to be there as a being trapped, or not having the resources available to them to change that situation, because more times than not, going back to your point about we're engaging in this thing where if they are getting there, that is not the first time that this is happening, and that the violence then has gotten to the point where, yes, my safety is now at issue, or my children's safety is now at issue. So all those times before that, they have no idea that the amount of silent violence that's been perpetrated in order to keep that person there, whether it be financial or emotional, coercive control, which is now making its way into the vernacular or the words that are being used in this domestic violence space, and in bullying, stalking, harassment, any of these types of situations where coercive control is now starting to make it. So if engaging in these kinds of knowledge of definitions and things of that like, imagine what kind of a difference that could make. And in terms of those, like you said, it goes back to, if you know better, you do better. We're going to assume that everybody that gets into this profession does so with the want to do better.
Mhm.
So if we can engage that back at the education system, then we're doing a better job doing that too. Engage,
Absolutely.
so there's so many of us resources out there that are just waiting to be a part of your law enforcement's conversation with someone so that you don't have to. That's not what you guys are paid to do. Paid to protect us, but we have these resources. So if we can either give them to you so that you can give it to them during this period of time that is so dangerous, that's how we do it. This is where the EAA really comes into gear, because
Right.
going back to that, now cops knowing that there's these other elements, maybe coming into a situation, they now know there's all these other elements. Maybe they can now engage that person with, hey, I don't know if you know this, but there's this resource that's available that'll let you talk about things that have gone on with you.
Yep.
So now what they can do is, if they didn't have that knowledge before, they, through law enforcement, now feel more listened to, more engaged, and they now have a way to take those instances that the police now know were there before, and now they're going to be able to write all these things down. So it won't matter how long ago that was. You can write them all down.
And I think one of the big points is to recognize not only that EAA is available, but that victims themselves also need to be educated in these same statistics and facts about the dynamics, so that some people who don't even realize they're in an abusive relationship don't acknowledge it, or they sometimes minimize it, they deny it, or they blame someone else for what's going on. Oftentimes they blame themselves, but oftentimes they blame someone else for the reason they're being abused. I want to go to something you're probably aware of, is the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And you mentioned that there are tons of locations and resources available. The Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence is one of the pioneers in some of these resources. And they developed, as well as lots of other advocacy centers and education centers, have developed lethality assessment programs. And one of the statistics that PCADV puts on their website is that in the last 10 years, more than 1,600 people have died in Pennsylvania alone as a result of domestic violence. And that is something I think law enforcement needs to be aware of. Find out what the stats are in your own state, in your own city, and be aware of that.
Ultimately, we want to give everyone a space to tell their stories in a way that is held for them safely. But ultimately, everyone around that has the possibility of violence just because they're dealing with this one person. And so it's like a domino effect that we're almost going to be able to have in keeping everyone around this person safer, because now maybe what we do is we eliminate that last fatal incident that we keep coming across in these medical situations where nurses and doctors are being killed or held at gunpoint or just abused or assaulted. You've got police officers who are being killed. You've got people in the judicial system who are being shot at, judges, jurors. And I mean, it doesn't matter to anybody who has contact with this person, because this abuser, and this goes back to that 6 months, because when you are at the point that you are leaving, this abuser now knows that they have lost all control that
Right.
they have of you. So now the desperation is ensuing. And in that desperation, there's no logic. It is only emotion. And the emotion is, I have lost control. I need to get that back, because otherwise I know you're leaving. And if you escape, now who's ever standing in the way of that escape, whether it be law enforcement, the judicial system, the medical system, your churches, your best friend, whoever it is, now becomes a target. You are a part of why they are leaving. Just like victims will sometimes blame others, it is all that with an abuser, because they will take no accountability. So now you all are helping So now whoever it is that is in my way, now you're their target. So if we take these situations and can take them out of the picture, even if it's one less part of that, one less number, one less statistic, that's one less. That's one more person that gets to walk home to their children. That's one more person that we don't read about. That's one more person whose name we don't have to remember because they're here. I'm just so amazed sometimes at what this tool can do and the impact that it's going to have and the impact that it's going to have for law enforcement in particular, because we do want to track these numbers. We want to know this is happening because, yes, it is. Like I said, going back to that 6 months. Now, that's where safety planning, and there's a whole nother episode we could have is around safety planning, because really, leaving is not a singular event. It is a strategy that has to be thought out and planned for in order to keep that person safe and to keep the people around them safe. So if there is a strategy, and there's a lot of different great safety plans out there. I work with a young lady, her name is Amanda Marino, and she has created a wonderful safety plan that is out there. Time's Up, where Susan started the EAA, had a safety plan in it. And so it's a walkthrough here. Let us walk you through planning your exit that's going to, hopefully keep you and everyone around you safe. In doing so, again, everybody who's engaged, and now we're a part of that process too. It's wonderful, but it's all like one big onion that it's like this, deals with this, and on top of this, and if we can do this. And it's like all you got to do is one layer at a time. Going back to those statistics. So when I started doing this, literally because of Stacy being gone, when I started, it was every minute at least 25 people are being abused, and that's in the U.S. alone. That number has gone up in the last 2 years. They redid all the statistics, and it is now 27 to 28. So we are not going in the right direction, people. So there's obviously more work that's got to be done. I have met such amazing people doing such amazing work in this space that want to do nothing but help. Gives me hope that we can help more people, and we can do more things to kind of maybe take that statistic down, or do what we can to minimize the amount of repercussions that a victim has to go through when going through this system and things like that, and to be of better help to them while they're engaging.
Right. Norma, tell my audience that may have not heard your previous episode and are not aware of the Document the Abuse Project, what the EAA is and why it's so important. Just briefly.
Sure. I am the sister-in-law of missing Bolingbrook mother, Stacy Peterson, who went missing on October 28, 2007. In doing so, it engaged a whole series of events, and I came across a woman who created what is now known as the Evidentiary Abuse Affidavit, or EAA for short. In that affidavit is the ability to take statements that may be considered hearsay, or statements that may not make it into a court of law if you are not here to speak for yourself. But it does eliminate that, because what it is a digital diary. You can write in it, you can upload your police reports, your hospital reports, anything that helps to substantiate, validate, or corroborate what it is that you're stating. It's very easy to use. It's a web-based app so that it can't be found on the phone. So with a username, a password, and access to the internet, you can get on there from church, your best friend's house, the library, school, anywhere that has access to the internet, you can get on there. So what it is a digital diary, 3 pages. It's about yourself. It's about the person who is abusing you, and then some instances of that abuse. It has the ability to also, which is phenomenal, is take video. You can directly upload to there so that it's not on your phone. And we did all this in order to keep victims safe, to keep their information for them, and at no cost. We didn't want anybody to have to make some really hard decisions about their lives, and we want to be a part of that safety plan. That I hope that if you're going through abuse, that you will consider making a safety plan. And they're out there. All you have to do is Google them, go look for Document the Abuse. If you're ever confused about whether something is abuse, there's a great website by the name of loveisrespect.org that gives you a great way to know if it is a green light, a yellow light, or a red light in terms of behaviors. Great for teens. It's a great way to get that kind of information. So it works for everyone. But if for anyone who's listening, and I know that in the audience that you have, that there are people that may be suffering, that I hope that you will look up any of these resources. They're available and they're free for you. So that's why we exist, because we saw what went on with Stacy. We saw what ultimately went on with Kathleen, and we want to take what they went through and make it be different for others. As my husband likes to say, doing nothing was not an option. It was never an option. So we honor these women by doing the work that we're doing and providing this for others.
Right. And for my audience, I'll mention that Stacy's body has never been located, but that her husband, Drew Peterson, is in prison for his previous wife's murder. The important thing to remember, too, is that you can look this information up on the internet, find all about Stacy, find all about his previous wife. I think her name was Kathleen. Am I right?
Her name was Kathleen Savio. And when Stacy went missing is what triggered first it triggered a whole media storm, which
we talked about.
We got into a little bit of that last time.
Yeah.
But so I mean, the things that it triggered, but what it did is it brought to light what both my sister-in-law, Stacy, who was literally 30 years, Drew's junior, 30 years, and Kathleen was probably 10 to 15. So each time he went with a younger wife and a younger wife. But what they went through, when Stacy went missing, they went looking and found out that Drew had a third wife that had died in an accidental drowning 2 weeks before the end of their divorce, very contentious divorce. And so they went looking into all that. That became true crime story fodder, and it just blew up from there. And that's how he wound up in jail, and how we wound up with the Evidentiary Abuse Affidavit. Would have been so phenomenal for Kathleen to have been using, because literally it could have been life-saving, because it could have made the difference as to whether Stacy is here or not.
Yeah.
Because if he would have been found out, that Kathleen's family could have brought it forward. That's the difference with this. And even if you don't want to fill it out, or the person that you're trying to get to fill it out, you can fill it out on their behalf if you're witnessing it. This is what's so great, is that anybody can use this. So if I am, let's say, witnessing this and I can't get someone to fill it out, it's my best friend, it's my sister, it's my brother, and I can't get them to fill it out, but yet they're sending me pictures, they're sending me this, they're sending me that, I'm witnessing some of it, start writing it down yourself. You don't know if you might corroborate someone's testimony.
Yeah.
So we're looking at it all ways to Sunday here.
I'm going to throw something else in here real quick, and that is the fact that this whole project is under the auspices of Document the Abuse. And everyone needs to know that Document the Abuse is a nonprofit organization. And if you're in the audience and you have the financial wherewithal to be able to help this program continue, donations are happily accepted.
I appreciate it. Yes, we are a nonprofit just for that purpose, so that we could be able to provide this to people. And it's been a very long struggle. We just got our 501c3 status last year. We are so thankful for that. And the work goes on. I have had some more opportunities come my way since I spoke with you last. So things are plugging away quite nicely in terms of us getting the awareness out there and being able to take advantage of opportunities. We do have some things. So if you know of some grants, if you want to support the work that we're doing, it would be phenomenal for us to just keep this train rolling. We're doing our best to do so.
You bet. Document the Abuse also provides law enforcement and training in general, not just for law enforcement, but advocacy. And you also train general public.
We're signing up people for advocacy programs. We have different ones. So with law enforcement and the judicial system, they have some different specifics to them that we need to address in terms of our training. So theirs tends to be a little bit longer and a little bit more intensive than it would be for, let's say, an advocate or a victim survivor. So we do have classes that you can sign up for online. We do have quite a few on the website itself. A lot of different podcasts and shows and things like that I've done that give you quite a bit of information. We just started a YouTube channel. So we're going to be adding some things. We're bringing on interns, things like that. So we're going to be putting together videos that help explain a lot better. It's been a long time coming. We've basically been doing all this on a shoestring budget and wearing a lot of different hats for a small few of us, but we've managed to do this. Being able to bring on others to help us in that endeavor will be quite helpful.
I'm so excited about this program and very thrilled that I found you in the first place. I think I found out about the Document the Abuse on Instagram, if I'm not mistaken, and reached out to Norma and asked her to be on this show. So this is our second installment, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. Talk about anything else that you'd like to bring up on this particular episode before we sign off.
Maybe just to wrap up, if there is anyone out there that is listening, that is from law enforcement, doesn't matter in what capacity that you're in, we do a lot of different trainings. It can be something as simple as 15 minutes in between the different shifts. We can pop in there and give somebody just a quick 15-minute training that says, hey, we have this neat little card that you can hand out for your people that are going out there. So this way it's not anything that is big, bulky. It's not anything I got to do 2 days of training that I'm really not interested in and don't really have the time to do. So we can do them 15 minutes. I can do them for an hour. So that, let's say you've got some extra grant money that you've got a training, because we know that that happens from time to time. Maybe you've got something that you got to fill in a niche for. We're under violence prevention because we can prevent violence, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be in the capacity of domestic violence. This can be for sexual assault, harassment, stalking, in whatever capacity that somebody might feel in danger. So you can use this in other realms, in other parts of your job. It's a go-to all the way around. It's an easy way to get us in the door, to give you guys a free resource that we're going to give everybody else. It's a feel good all the way around. We're trying to keep everybody safe, including you. So feel free to reach out. We'll figure it out, because I can get somebody who's a sponsor, because we have sponsorship levels. So people sponsor other people's training. So feel free to get a hold of me. There's no way out. There's no reason I shouldn't be talking to everybody.
Well, and it's not just police officers and law enforcement that you're talking to in regard to training. You mentioned this just a few minutes ago, and there's training for hospitals, hospital workers, sex assault nurse examiners.
I've trained quite a few different entities here in Illinois. And like I said, we're moving and grooving in a lot of different places. Anybody in your audience happens to be in Chicago, it's September 9th through the 11th. It's the National Center for the Victims of Crime. And we're looking forward to having a table there. We are looking at having a possible panel there to talk about Stacy's case. So we're going to see how this works out. I can't guarantee anything. We're still in the process of that proposal, but fingers crossed, maybe it's something that we all get to see during that period of time. So if you happen to be here, say hi to you. This is the kind of places that really get us awareness, because they have 600 to 700 attendees. We're looking at, like I said, I put out a few proposals, one in Washington, D.C., another one out in Orlando, another one out in the West Coast and California, trying to get there. So we're really doing our best to cross the country, and have had some talks with some people overseas.
That's amazing. Wow, good. Congrats.
Yeah. Thank you. So we are getting interest literally from other countries in regards to this, because in the fact that it's an affidavit, in whatever legal standing it has in whoever country it can be used, it's an affidavit.
Norma, this is such an important program. I am so impressed by what your organization is doing, your leadership, the things that you're doing innovatively to get the word out. I'm thankful that you're here for this show so that I can help promote it. This is not the normal sexual assault survivor stories episode. And that's the other aspect of this show. It's not just providing a platform for victims and survivors, but it's also an educational platform. And I think this is critical. I really want victims and survivors to be aware of Document the Abuse and the EAA. Just because you haven't been documenting doesn't mean you can't start. And in those, I just found out about the EAA. Don't just document what happens from that point on. You can go back and document all of the episodes that you can remember. And if you've got evidence for those, attach it. Witness statements, like you said, video, audio, anything that can be attached to that and be put into the form of an affidavit can be potentially used for your case and for saving other people in their cases.
And I'm so glad you said that. Thank you, because it does not matter when it happened. If it happened 50 years ago because it was in your childhood and there was something that was happening to you, use it. Get it out of you. Get it released. It's there for you. It's free. Use it how you want to. If there were multiple incidents in your life or multiple people, because we know that things happen. Nobody's judging anyone. No one has to know. It's only for you. It's a digital diary. Nobody ever opens these. It's in the hope that, in getting it out, it helps you, to release it, to deal with it, to put a light to the darkness. Because it's only when we can do that that we can really fully step into the light. It's not until you look into the dark that you can fully step into your light. And we give people an opportunity to do that. And then you don't have to deal with it again if you don't want to, but it's already there. And so now if you decide you want to do something with it, great. But if you never want to do anything with it, it doesn't matter. It's yours. You have autonomy back. You get to decide when, where, how your story gets told, because that's your decision. It's giving you back the power and control. And it's also taking that story back from whoever might be gaslighting you into thinking that it's not. Sometimes in writing it out, and then you go to that loveisrespect.org and go see that behavior that you were being gaslit into saying, no, that never happened, or no, it wasn't like that, or no, it didn't qualify for that. And you start reading it, you're like, you know what? My gut was right. I was right about that. And now I can feel better. So maybe you can't always get the justice, but maybe what it does is it validates your spirit. It validates your gut. It validates that you were not crazy.
Right.
This really happened. I was gaslit. I was coercive control. Damage was done to me because I recognized the truth.
I think that's so important, Norma, because for those who may be hearing about this for the first time, they may be thinking in their head, oh, so next time I get beat up, next time I get injured, I can document that. But what's important to remember, though, is that it can also be those situations where they were gaslit. It can be thoughts that you had about maybe this is happening, maybe that is happening. It can document attempts to leave and not being able to, so that every time those attempts are made, you're documenting that. It can document stalking. It can document the coercive control you were talking about, the way they treat children in order to intimidate and scare you, the way they treat you in order to intimidate and scare the children, the way they treat your pets, the way they follow you or wanting to know, checking on you. I'm just going to the grocery store. Well, you better call me when you get there from the grocery store. All of these dynamics need to be documented.
And in putting this in a place where victims could easily be able to justify being in these places where they can access internet or computers like the library or church, or, imagine if we can get to a point where at a Walmart, you could walk in and say, I need to use Betsy's room. And they're going to know Betsy's room means I need to go fill out an EIA. Go to the grocery store and nobody's going to think twice about it, as long as you're coming with the groceries, and they're going to know to keep an eye. I mean, imagine if we can get to a point where we can do things like that. That was part of the safety issue, is we were looking for how could someone go and very easily be able to explain why I might want to go with the kids to school to go do something. Well, now I can go use the library computer. Mm-hmm. Or, something like that while they're having their thing, because they're not going to sit with you. They just want to know where you are. So, yeah, God forbid they actually go somewhere, but they're going to track where you're going. But if even in going there, they don't know what you're doing there, mm-hmm. and I'm at school, I can go to the school library. I can go to the teacher. If I'm taking college classes, again, I can use the computer there. Doesn't matter where you are, as long as you have a username and a password, you can get on there.
Yeah. This has been amazing. I really appreciate this. It's why I wanted Norma here. And we're going to keep doing this, and we're going to talk about different topics and different things that the EAA can be used for. Maybe we haven't brought it up yet. Maybe we'll think of something later, but I also want people to be aware of the ability to donate. I also want people to be aware of the training that's available out there. So, Norma, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
It's been a heck of a conversation. I love to talk to you, Dave. We need to just keep doing this. These are fascinating. I mean, I find them to be fascinating conversations.
Me
so
too.
I'm glad that we can delve into some of these issues a little deeper than you normally get to, because a lot of times you just get to do that introductory type of thing, whereas sometimes when you can dive a little deeper, you wind up getting things you didn't even realize were a part of the conversation sometimes, where really the growth is and where the information lies is when you're talking with others. So that's why I always appreciate the ability to be able to do that. Love it when synchronicity works and people can find each other. This is great.
Mention the website for people if they want to learn more about you.
If you want to look at the Evidentiary Abuse Affidavit, any of the information about Document the Abuse, it is on documenttheabuse, all one word, .org, .com, .net. I think I grabbed all of those. Mm-hmm. And then, so we're on there. We've got blog posts, we've got newsletters. So there's a lot of great information on there. And then please look at the Evidentiary Abuse Affidavit. There is a page on there that will help prep you in order to make the most of your time on there, because we realize that time is of the essence. So we want to best prepare you for getting on there, because we value your information just like you do. So we want to make sure that we're making the most of your time, your effort, your energy, and wishing you nothing but love and safety.
Thank you, Norma. This has been great.
Wonderful, Dave. I look forward to our next conversation.
That does it for another episode of Sexual Assault Survivor Stories, the SAS podcast. I'm going to repeat what I said at the end of Norma's last episode. What's critically important after conversations like this isn't just the information. It's the weight of responsibility. Because when someone documents the abuse, they're preserving a story. When they refuse to let it disappear, they're doing more than recording history. They're pushing back against erasure. Norma's work through Document the Abuse reminds us that justice doesn't always come in the form we hope for, but truth still matters, and documentation matters, memory matters, and survivors deserve to know that their stories don't vanish just because a system fails to act. Cases like Stacy Peterson's don't end neatly. There's no resolution that brings comfort, but there is purpose in refusing to look away and in choosing to believe survivors even when the outcome isn't certain. If this episode resonated with you, I encourage you to learn more about the work being done to preserve survivors' voices and hold systems accountable. And if you're a survivor listening right now, your story matters, even if it was never believed, even if it was never documented, even if it still only lives inside of you. Take a good look at the Document the Abuse website and start thinking about documenting your abuse with the Evidentiary Abuse Affidavit. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. As is always my ending encouragement, start by believing. The other aspect to pursue is to start normalizing these conversations. Both of these admonitions recognize that we all know someone whose life has been impacted by interpersonal violence. The time to make a difference is now. Please share this episode. We'll see you next week.